Everybody plays the fool sometimes. There's no exception to the rule. And isn't it ironic? Don't you think? Before I get into this conversation, I want to say something first. I am not religious, I am spiritual. My father is a preacher, and I do know aspects of the Bible. And one thing the Bible speaks about quite a bit is hypocrisy, especially when it comes to people holding others to standards they do not apply to themselves, or focusing more on appearances than honesty and consistency. Keyword consistency. And one of the clearest discussions of hypocrisy comes from Romans. You then who teach others, do you not teach yourself? Romans 2:21. Meaning, if you preach standards, consistency matters. The Bible also repeatedly warns against selective judgment. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged. Matthew 7:2. And what is interesting is that biblical discussion of hypocrisy are usually less about people simply being imperfect and more about double standards, selective outrage, performative morality, public righteousness with private inconsistency, and condemning behavior in others while excusing it in yourself. Now let's move into this conversation. In my first video, we discussed the psychology behind parasocial behavior, FOMO, urgency marketing, creator loyalty, and why criticism toward a creator can start feeling personal to supporters. Now in this video, I want to apply that same framework to this specific product situation. This is where the FOMO and urgency conversation matters. When viewers are told a product is sold out, when they are told future inventory is uncertain, and when shipping costs or the political climate are used as part of the explanation for why the price increased, that creates pressure. It tells consumers, buy now because you may not get another chance. But when more inventory keeps showing up every week or two after that, consumers have the right to question whether that scarcity messaging created unnecessary urgency. And that is how the psychology from part 1 connects to this product discussion here. Now let's move on to my second point. Once people became emotionally invested in a creator, objective discussion can slowly start getting replaced with emotional defense. And no, this is not hate. This is actually backed by behavioral psychology and social science. You start seeing inconsistent standards. A behavior that would normally be criticized suddenly becomes acceptable because of who is doing it. You start seeing selective criticism instead of responding to the actual critique consistently across the board, no matter who is doing it. People start becoming selective about who they critique and who they defend. You start seeing emotional defensiveness instead of objectively engaging with the criticism itself. People begin responding as if the creator personally is being attacked. And eventually, creator loyalty starts overriding product discussion entirely. The conversation stops being, is this product worth it? And becomes, how dare you criticize the person I support? I recently had a conversation with this person right here on this platform that perfectly demonstrated what I mean. One of the things that was said in the video, and I quote, y'all really blow me with this dumbass shit. Now, I want you to pay attention to the emotional language there before we even get into the actual discussion itself. The person also stated that the reviews they watched became, and I quote, less about the fragrance and more about how they feel about the creator. But here's what becomes interesting. Every single review I personally saw discussing shipping, pricing, packaging, marketing, or performance also discussed how the fragrance actually smelled. Not one creator that I personally saw said they hated the fragrance itself. Not one. People questioned whether the price matched the juice in the bottle. Some people questioned the performance relative to the cost. Some people questioned the marketing, the packaging, the shipping, or the urgency tactics. But I did not personally see creators simply, quote unquote, her words, talking shit about the fragrance itself the way people were claiming. And when I asked which creators supposedly reviewed the fragrance without discussing the actual scent profile at all, she gave me crickets. Another statement she made, and I quote her, why did you purchase the perfume? Did you intentionally buy it to talk shit about it? That question itself ignores how consumer reviews work. Most consumers cannot know whether a fragrance performs well, develops well, matches the price point, or lives up to the hype until after they purchased it and wear it themselves. That is literally why reviews and consumer discussions exist. The same person also stated that they come to fragrance reviews for honest opinions and how fragrance actually smells, and that reviews should stick, and I quote her, should stick to the fragrance. But later in another video, her part 2, while speaking positively about the scent overall, they also stated that the fragrance was not blind buy safe and recommended testing it on skin instead of paper first. But doesn't that already move the conversation beyond simple scent notes into consumer guidance, wearability, skin chemistry, and purchasing risk? Just asking. Because if we are only supposed to discuss scent notes, why are you now discussing blind buy safety, testing methods, and skin development? That is exactly my point. And while we're still talking about her statement of, quote unquote, stick to the fragrance, I started questioning the consistency. Does this same irritation apply across the board to all creators discussing packaging, shipping, marketing, customer experience, and pricing? Or does that frustration only appear when people discuss this creator and this fragrance? I got crickets again. Because when I checked the timeline myself, I personally did not see videos of her criticizing this creator for discussing those same things in his content. I also did not personally see comments from her saying, stick to the fragrance. I'm not here for all that. And I asked her all of these things. And again, crickets. And just so no one can say that I'm exaggerating or I'm blowing this up, I'm going to post screenshots of the actual conversation at the end of this video, just in case I'm blocked and you can see my receipts. I have no reason to lie to you guys. So I have a social media acquaintance on here who had a bad experience with a brand, and she placed an order and she never received that order and had to pursue legal actions because they wouldn't refund her. So that means that anytime that anyone has posted a review on a company or a product and didn't stick to the product, that has irritated you and they blow you with this shit. So who do you watch? And that is the point. And you also mentioned something regarding business and personal, and I don't remember exactly what you said, but to quote Lotto, it's business and personal. Because when consumers spend their personal money on products, fragrances, shipping, packaging, and overall experiences, it naturally becomes both. If someone spends their hard-earned money on a fragrance, tests it, wears it, evaluates the performance, evaluates the marketing, evaluates the customer experience, and then publicly discusses their opinion, that is not hate. That is consumer behavior, especially on a platform built around reviews, recommendations, purchasing influence, and marketing. You cannot separate business from personal when creators are building personal brands, emotionally connecting with audiences, encouraging purchases, and financially benefiting from those audience relationships at the same time. For example, showing Louis collections that their followers basically brought for them, going on trips to Paris that their followers brought those tickets for, and their followers probably don't even have a passport and never been there. That is exactly why emotional attachment, creator loyalty, and consumer psychology become relevant to the discussion in the first place. Psychologists have discussed concepts like confirmation bias, which is what we discussed in part 1, in-group loyalty, the halo effect, identity protective thinking, emotional investment, and exaggerated emotional responses for years. Once emotional attachment enters the conversation, people often begin protecting the relationship or identity connection they feel with the creator, rather than objectively evaluating the situation itself. Social media amplifies this because creators are no longer viewed as distant celebrities. Audience interact with them daily, hear personal stories, watch lives, comment regularly, and begin feeling a familiarity and emotional closeness. The human brain can start processing that repeated exposure as a social relationship, even when the connection is one-sided. That does not mean every supporter is parasocial or irrational. People are allowed to disagree. But when standards consistently shift depending on who is being discussed instead of what is being discussed, people are also allowed to question whether emotion has replaced objectively in the conversation. Once you become aware of these kinds of behavior patterns online, proceed with caution, because I can't legally tell you that they are mentally unwell. Because emotional attachment, creator loyalty, and selective objectivity and inconsistent standards can heavily influence how information is received, defended, and spread across social media spaces. And when people say they have discernment, but consistently apply standards selectively depending on who is being discussed instead of what is being discussed, I think it is fair to start questioning that discernment. That is why critical thinking, consistency, transparency, and independent evaluation matter. Everything I discussed in that first video continues to stand true, and it's playing out right now. So if you ever question me, my transparency, the information I give you, or the research behind what I say, what is happening right now in real time is my proof. You can literally search these videos, read the comments, watch the conversations unfold yourself, and actively see the inconsistency, the emotional defensiveness, the selective criticism, and the hypocrisy playing out publicly. That is exactly what I was talking about. I've never lied to y'all. I've never played in your face. That has never been the foundation of my platform. I research consumer behavior, audience psychology, and marketing patterns before I speak on. And if you missed the first video I made months ago, it is pinned as one of the 3 videos at the top of my page. So you feel free to go watch the first video for context. You can't straddle the fence. I won't allow it. I can't legally call you mentally unwell, so I just block. I mean, how many hypocrites does it take to get to the center of hell?
A good question. Let's find out. 1, 2, 3, 3.
If there's anything I can't stand, it's a smart owl.
So this is all facts, no feelings. And if you follow me genuinely, because this isn't my usual content. So hope you stick around.